Welcome to Autism Actually Speaking. I'm Nathan Selove.
And I'm Ramon Selove.
And today we have another exciting episode to share with you all. We are going to be talking about one of the uh, one of the areas in which is quite possibly the most intrusive into all of our lives, and that is media, specifically the media portrayal of autism. Now, I know that I've talked about this before in a individual video, but I've, I'm older now. I've studied a bit more, and my father's here, and we're going to discuss it instead of just have me blabber on about it. So let's talk about media portrayal of autism.
So my first thought on that is a lot of times people find media portrayals offensive,
Hmm.
and um, so many times I'm not offended at all by something that some neurotypical
Yeah,
is offended on my behalf
yeah,
about. And
yeah.
it's really cute for you to be offended on my behalf, but maybe maybe just let me
Dial it back.
maybe just let me decide whether I'm offended.
Yeah. Well, I
Because
think
you
Well, I
know
think that's, I mean, think that comes back to something that we've talked about before, which is the idea of infantilizing people on the autism spectrum. So, like, if you see somebody doing a portrayal that there's some reason why you think it should be considered offensive, like there's this automatic reaction of, let me stand up for these poor defenseless autistics. And the thing about autistics, we have opinions. Like a lot of us have very strong opinions. And if we don't like something, we'll be direct about it. Like we'll we'll let you know if we don't like something. Like I'm gonna talk about some portrayals that I don't like in this episode. Like so I guess before you get offended on like an autistic's behalf, like maybe figure out what they actually care about, like make sure that you actually know an autistic that is offended by it before you get offended by it, I guess. You know?
or maybe just back off and let the autistics speak for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that works too. That works too.
You
That
know,
works too. Let the autism
so
actually speak.
so there was The Onion used to have
Oh
this
yeah,
bit
the
with
autistic
the
reporter.
autistic reporter, and I think there were a lot of neurotypicals who found that offensive, and
I
I just found it
Yeah,
hilarious.
I thought it was
I
hilarious.
loved it.
And the
I
thing is,
wonder if I would still love it today. Do you think it has aged
I
well?
I actually went back and watched it like a year ago, I think, and
Yeah.
I still thought it was funny. Like, I mean, look, there are aspects of it where I can point to and say that's a problematic portrayal, but honestly, it was just funny. I liked it. Like, you
The
know,
the train wreck.
the train.
and and how was the train?
Yeah.
All these people died, yes, but is the train okay?
I mean, to be fair, a lot of autistics like trains. Like
Trains are
that's
cool.
trains are cool, you know? Um, so the thing is, like, I think that interestingly enough, I think that sometimes the fear of offending people on the autism spectrum by making jokes can actually be something that ends up holding back better representation. And here's what I mean by that. Let's look at the example of the Big Bang Theory. Now,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that I know that have major issues with the Big Bang Theory. Because, if we are operating under the assumption that Sheldon Cooper is autistic, there are some kind of annoying stereotypes that it does perpetuate. The stereotype that all autistics are asexual. You know, um, plenty of autistics are, and those that are deserve to have representation. But there is this image of autistics as just not being romantic beings or not being sexual beings, and that's just not the case for most of us.
It's
Um,
not. On the other hand, you can't expect one character to represent everybody.
yeah, yeah.
Why would you expect one character to represent everybody?
Yeah, and I even thought that there were some episodes that I thought did a really good job of kind of laying into it, laying out there like what the world looks like through Sheldon's eyes. Like there's
Mhm.
that episode where there was like he had a debt to somebody. He had a debt, and um it was bothering him, even though it was a debt to a store that was like closed down, but it was bothering him. He couldn't stop thinking about it. And Leonard kept being all like, "Oh, you just get over it. Just get over it." He's like, "I can't get over it. I can't stop thinking about it." And so Sheldon basically issued him this challenge to like wear this really itchy sweater. It's like, "Okay, well, if you think I'm ridiculous for caring about this, then you should wear this itchy sweater." And like, he wears this itchy sweater, and it's supposed to represent basically that constant reminder of, something that's bothering you. And at the end of the episode, like Leonard throws it off. He's like, "I can't do it. I can't take it." And, Sheldon's like, "Yeah, that's how I feel." And I actually thought that that was a decent way of kind of humanizing, uh, like that whole thing. Like I have, IOUs from graduate school that were never cashed in on, that probably will never be cashed in on, that I still think about sometimes. Like like someone who did something for me and I was like, "I owe you one for that." Like when I say that, I actually mean it. Like I actually I and I and we both graduated before but before like he cashed it in, and I still think about it sometimes. Like it still bothers me that you know, I never repaid him with this person with some type of favor. So like there's a lot to
I
like about it.
I I I had this. So I used to not like self-checkout. Um,
Hmm.
but during the pandemic, I came to really like not having people touch my food at the grocery store. So self-checkout became great, but I made a mistake once. I had something in my cart and it just kind of got buried and I never scanned it and I walked out with it and it
Mm.
just ate at me and ate at me. And I went back to the store and I told them, and I went to customer service. I said, I've come to buy, I don't even remember what it was now. Um, but, and at customer service, they said, it's okay, don't worry about it. I said, no, that's no,
No.
that's not okay. I need you to charge me for this item. And they said, I have no way of doing that. It's not here. You know, I can't do that for you. I'm like, you have to. So I finally went and got another one and I went through the self-checkout and I scanned it twice and took away one. And once I had done that, then I could let it rest. And here's here here's the example. I don't even
Yeah.
remember what it was now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for a week I couldn't think of anything else. This is not okay.
Yeah.
This is not okay. I stole this item. I tried to turn myself in and make it right, and they
Yeah.
and
They
they
didn't let you.
wouldn't let me. And it ate me.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about that. That is funny. All right. That is objectively hilarious. That is ridiculous. That is hilarious. But I totally understand that.
It's
I
real.
totally understand that. It is real. So like the my point is for bringing up the Big Bang Theory and Sheldon Cooper. Um, my biggest issue is not the way that he's portrayed. It's the fact that they just don't come out and say that he's autistic. Like they've actually very like the guy who wrote it has actually very directly said, that he was like, "Oh, I didn't have autism in mind when I wrote this character. I had gifted in mind." And I actually, so I decided to, I looked
So our
up,
last discussion was about savants. It's the same thing.
yeah. Well, I Googled so I decided to Google because I wanted to see, what was there. I Googled, like, Sheldon Cooper autistic, and the first thing that came up was actually this. It was this article, from this group called Above and Beyond Therapy, and there's just this section of it that I want to read to you all,
All
which
right.
is gonna make you laugh. All right, because they're making the argument like, no, Sheldon is not autistic, he's gifted. All right. So this is what they say. This is in the section called, differentiating giftedness and autism. Gifted individuals often exhibit traits that are distinct from those associated with autism. Gifted children can possess exceptional intellectual abilities, intense curiosity, advanced problem solving skills, and a deep passion for specific subjects. These traits are often evident in young Sheldon's uh, uh, exceptional intelligence, advanced vocabulary, and his ability to grasp complex scientific concepts at a young age. On the other hand, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by challenges in social interaction, communication difficulties, and restricted or repetitive behaviors. Individuals with autism may struggle with understanding and expressing emotions, have difficulties with social cues, and exhibit repetitive movements or behaviors, while Sheldon's character does display some social challenges, such as difficulty relating to others and a lack of empathy. These behaviors are more consistent with Asperger's syndrome than autism.
What the hell do they think Asperger's syndrome is?
They're saying he's not autistic, he has Asperger's.
Um,
Oh my god. And
so
before you think like, oh, well, like, when was this written? Because like the DSM was updated like whenever. This was written in April of this year. This article was written in April of this year. The DSM hasn't included Asperger's since, like, what? When did they change that?
it was for the DSM-5, and
Yeah,
that's been, I don't know, has that been 7 years
something
ago,
like
something
that.
like that? But while Asperger's might not have its own DSM code separate from autism spectrum disorder, um, it still has its own diagnostic code, its own ICD code.
Yeah, but it is a form of autism.
Yeah.
It is a form of autism.
So
That's like saying that's
so
not a
one
it's
of
not
the
a rectangle, it's
things
a square.
one of the things about Big Bang Theory, um, that I want to challenge you saying, Sheldon isn't really showing that broad characteristics of autism. He's just one way that autism might look. But at least half the characters on Big Bang
Yeah,
Theory are autistic,
yeah.
and
Well, that's
and they
the other
sh
part.
and they show it in different ways.
Yeah.
I I think it's really good the way they show the different kinds of autism. Now, instead of using the word autism, they use the word engineer, but
Yeah. Or nerd.
or nerd. Yeah, it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, not not all engineers are autistic, but if you're an engineer and you're not autistic, you're the minority.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you are the minority. But yeah, yeah, and that's the other point. Like, people focus on the portrayal of Sheldon Cooper as autistic, but honestly, Leonard is autistic.
yeah,
Uh Obviously Amy Farrah Fowler is autistic.
yeah.
Um I think that arguably you could say Wolowitz is autistic.
Absolutely.
Um, you know, it's interesting because, like, because the thing is, Sheldon's the one where it's much more in your face. And I think that also comes with one of the other issues when it comes to autistic portrayals in media, which is the fact that, um oftentimes it's supposed to be like, if a character is autistic, that has to be all of their personality, all of who they
Yeah.
are. Um, and you know,
And that's kind of where Good Doctor has a
yeah.
problem.
The
It's
real quick before we move on to Good Doctor, I just wanted to
yeah.
real quick, the last point I wanted to make about Big Bang Theory is that like people were this goes back to the point that I was kind of making earlier about like being okay with laughing at something that an autistic does that's kind of silly. The reason why I think that they're so afraid of calling Sheldon autistic is because then it feels like we're making fun of him because he's autistic, you know. And that's and you know that can be considered problematic, but the thing is there are things that autistics do that are just objectively funny.
And this goes back to the problem of other people being offended on our
Yeah,
behalf.
exactly.
Um, the problem that we talked about with Ian Drury and the spasticus autisticus.
Yeah. Which we
Um,
haven't talked about that yet, but we will definitely talk about that in a later episode.
yeah, we should have an episode specifically about that.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, I haven't gotten very far through Good Doctor,
Yeah.
not even through the first season.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe it got better because a lot of these autism shows. What was the one? Something Family. Um, shoot, I don't remember the name of it, but it was it was a little one dimensional in the first season, but they got
Oh,
some really
are you talking about Atypical?
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
It
I
it it was a little one dimensional in the first season, and then they got some really good um autistic uh advisors for the show, and it got a lot better.
yeah. I so I don't know because I watched the first episode and I
Oh,
cringed so much I just couldn't. Like
yeah.
I remember Jess and I both watched it and it ended, you know, spoiler alert. The first episode ended with um him getting having a crush on his therapist, and he had this there's this weird part where he's like
Yeah.
narrating some like mating rituals of animals or something. I forget.
Penguins.
Penguins, yeah. And I was just like, no, 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 I can't. Like the therapist, no, I can't do that. I cannot do
Yeah.
this. Um, and
It
and
got
and
it
so
got
much of it,
so much better when they got good autistic
and
advisors.
and
And
that's great. That's
and,
great. But I
and
couldn't get,
they also later on got real autistic actors
yeah,
to be part of it.
yeah.
And so I'm kind of hoping that's what happened with Good Doctor. I don't know.
So I think that Jess and I watched the first two seasons of it, and I mean, there were parts of it that I liked. There were also parts of it that both Jess and I still have problems with. Like there's one episode, I don't know if you've watched this one, where this transgender teenager comes in.
No.
Um it's this transgender teenage girl that comes in, and um and Sean is just like stuck on uh on labeling this person as their assigned at birth gender, like at calling her him. Like he's just stuck on it. He's like, nope, 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 penis, penis. It's a boy. She's a boy. He's a boy. He's a boy. Like he was stuck on this. And the thing is, like there are plenty of transphobic autistics, but in the aggregate, most autistics tends to actually have a more complex view of gender. You know,
Or
in my experience.
or in my case, a um a recognition of not really getting it.
Yeah.
I know I don't get gender, so I don't try to
Well, so much of
impose it on other people. I mean, gender just doesn't mean much to me.
Yeah. Well, and again, this could probably be its own episode too, but like
Yeah.
there's, because so much of what it means um to perform gender is based on social like on social pressure. And autistics by definition have trouble understanding like social standards. Of
Yeah.
course, a lot of autistics have kind of like complex views about the idea of performing gender.
Hmm.
So that was one thing that I really didn't like about it. I got really annoyed during that episode. And
And
again, it feels so much of it feels like a Wikipedia page of autism, like when they describe some aspects of things that he struggles with, it just felt like they were reading off a Wikipedia page. That was my problem with Atypical. When he would discuss things, like some of them were things I related to, some of them just felt like a Wikipedia page because
see,
it
see,
felt
that's you need to go back and give Atypical another chance because
I might.
they really, really got better about that in later seasons.
Yeah.
Um, I I want to criticize another autism show, but again, I can't remember what the name of it was. It was an Australian show with a therapist. Now, this was sort of a it wasn't a drama. It was like a reality show with a therapist who was trying to help autistic people go on dates.
Hmm.
And in one sense, I really liked the fact that um, they were taking sexuality seriously and trying to help people with their relationships. But on another level, you know, they were constantly trying to teach autistic people to act neurotypical and and trying to set them up on dates that did not make sense for them.
Hmm.
Like taking people with extreme sensory sensitivities and trying to make them go on a first date in a busy, crowded restaurant or something like that. I'm thinking, just why not let them go on a date in their favorite museum? Why the hell would you try to make them go into this situation that's entirely designed for neurotypicals? It just made no sense. There was so
Yeah.
much of what they were doing that just seemed. You never saw this, did you?
No, I didn't. I have no
Which
idea what you're talking about.
which makes it hard. She
Yeah.
was. I
Um,
think it was called something like Love on the
oh
Spectrum.
wait, yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of that.
And
I guess
I just in episode after episode, I just hated what she was doing to these perfectly good autistic people who, they could have made connections, they could have been themselves, and instead she was teaching them to try to mask.
yeah. And we're about out of time, but the last point that I want to make is basically like how do we fix this? Like what do we need more of? Um and this is a solution that I've talked about before, but I just want to reiterate it. Um I think that we can have a discussion about whether or not autistic characters should be like whether or not it's acceptable for them to be portrayed by neurotypical actors. And I think we could even have a whole like episode where we discuss that question. But regardless of how you feel about that, I think that it is essential that on some level, either through the acting, the writing, or the directing, or all three, that autistics need to be involved in the portrayal of autism because
Which kind of comes back to our old mantra:
nothing
nothing
about us
about us
without
without
us.
us.
Exactly. So like because the thing is then you get an experience that's
Mhm.
actually like that takes the whole person into account. And like I'm not, that isn't my way of endorsing person first language or anything, but the thing is, um I want more shows where we have characters who are autistic, but that's not the only thing about them. Like Good Doctor is kind of skirting on it, where it's like, it's about him being autistic, but it's also a medical drama, and that's great. But like,
Well, it's not great.
well, it's not
They
great, but like,
because it's a medical drama and all medical dramas suck.
yeah. Well,
Because every single medical drama has to do the emergency pneumothorax. Okay,
yeah,
come on, or the emergency cardiac tamponade.
yeah.
You know, that just
Never watch a
why?
medical, never
Why do
watch a
they have to
medical,
do that same
never
thing
watch a
over and over
medical
again?
drama with an A&P professor. But like, we need to be involved in that, and we also need more examples of autistic characters that maybe they're action heroes and they just so happen to have autism. Maybe they're superheroes and they just so happen to have autism. Maybe they're, and there are some episodes that maybe focus more on that. Maybe they're detectives and they just so happen to have autism. There are some episodes that
Or
focus
or
more on
or a
that.
or a professor of communication that just happens to have autism.
You
What
could turn me into a show.
what a great idea for a show.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I actually and I'm probably gonna do like a bigger announcement at some point, but I'm actually working on a book series that is a fantasy queer romance series where one of the main characters is autistic. And um because it's a fantasy series, like they don't have the language in this world for that, but like she's autistic. Like I write her as autistic. And what I really try to do is I make it clear that that does impact her, that does impact her personality, that does impact what she does, but it's not about her being autistic. It's about everything around it and her existing in this fantasy world. So, be looking out for an announcement video that I might be doing about that book that I will be hopefully putting out soonish. It was a lot of fun to write. But
Do you want to
that
give people a title at this point?
um Yeah, actually, you know what? I wasn't going to, but screw it. The title is "The Assassin and the Sorceress." Is like I said, it is a medieval fantasy adventure queer romance with a neurodivergent main character, which I hope I really enjoyed writing it, so I'm looking forward to being able to get it out there, and hopefully I'll be getting it out there sooner rather than later. But
I hope people enjoy that.
that
And
is
maybe it would be a good seed for a television drama.
maybe. That is today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, check out some of our other stuff, and leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think about uh, portrayal of media, or portrayal of autism in media, and how you think that it can best be fixed. What are some good examples? What are some bad examples? Do you disagree with us on anything? We're always happy to have discussions about this. Uh,
Also, if you have specific things that you'd like Nathan and me to talk about,
yeah,
let us know.
yeah,
Because we're planning episodes in the future, and let us know what you'd like to hear about.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So once again, thank you all for watching, and you will see us in the next one.